To the program, everyone. Stay with us. I'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Nigerians have been urged not to lose hope in the country's leadership as a result of the present economic hardship faced by citizens. Speaking at a charity event in Adamawa State, the organizing secretary of the All Progressives Congress in the state, Mustafa Ribadu, empowered 700 vulnerable persons with 20,000 naira cash each. Mr. Ribadu explained that he had to reach out to the less privileged who are facing tough times due to the current economic realities. He called on well-meaning Nigerians to support the present administration to cushion the hardship citizens are facing.
Just started, just a second, but I think it may go a long way, especially looking at the hardship our people are going through. And some giant steps may start by just a single step. It's just a token, and we really intend to do more. Let them not take it as something too small, neither too big. It's a token, and we just started, and we reach there, God willing, and we are going to support them in a very massive way, God willing. We are going to select students who are doing very well, who are doing very good in our communities. We know we have very bright chaps in our communities, but due to the lack of funds, encouragement, and support from the community, which I personally feel that it's something that we must do. I'm a son of a teacher.
I'd like to thank the APC Organizing Secretary for Adamawa State for supporting our education. We appreciate what the scholarship he has given to us. I want to say thank you.
Let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to focus on local government elections in Nigeria. And I will be speaking with Jide Ologun, a lawyer and political affairs analyst. Stay with us, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. The age-long debate as to the status of local government elections doesn't appear to have been finally settled, even with this recent Supreme Court judgment asserting the financial autonomy of the local government councils. Other important issues have trailed the LGCs, especially that of whether or not there should be a local government electoral commission, possibly within the structure of the Independent National Electoral Commission, to replace the state's Independent Electoral Commission. Will it make LGC elections credible so that it's not always the ruling political party in the state or appointees of the governors that take all the chairmanship and councillorship positions within their states, as has been the outcome in most states over the years, since it is the governor that is responsible for staffing SEC? Will it guarantee the LGC's independence and their place as a third tier of government? Will it curb the high-handedness of the state governors? These are some of the issues tonight. So let's speak with Mr. Jide Ologun, a lawyer and political affairs analyst, as we take a look at an overview of the local government elections in Nigeria. Mr. Ologun, good evening to you. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
So the native authority system, which was at the roots of local government system, if we're to juxtapose it with today's local government structure, what has changed?
You know, what I think the question we should actually be asking is, what benefits have we brought to the grassroots? When you talk about the local government system, you know, it has its roots in the decision of Lord Ripon in India in 1882, who set up the local government administration. He was then the viceroy. The viceroy was a man representing the king, managing the domain, and his approach was to bring governance to the local level and engage those who will drive the system. And it became something that some other countries began to emulate, just like democracy started in Athens in Greece. And when you talk about Nigeria, Lord Lugard, when he embarked on the amalgamation of the Northern and Southern Protectorate. They also devised this indirect rule by raising leaders at the grassroots level to handle the governance at that level, which was very effective in the north. You talk of the Sokoto Caliphate, the Borno Caliphate. You talk about the Oyo Ekiti Empire, and and the Egba Empire. So those were governance at the grassroots level. Okay. Then we started migrating it to what the Constitution recognizes. And if you look at Section 7 of the Nigerian Constitution of 1999 as amended, it's there. And researchers have revealed to us that the oldest local government should be Akoko Edo, and in terms of experimentation, Ikotepene. So I'm taking the pain to take us through the historical lane to answer that question. What benefits? Not something that started now. And what are the expectations? Firstly, to bring infrastructural development at the grassroots level. And of course, municipal service delivery. I recall, I'm from Okakoko, Ondo State, the capital of the world. Within our community, we had 2 primary schools, St. Anthony, which I attended in Idofi, St. Luke, walking distance. The local maternity was there. We felt the presence of governance at that level. But today, we've come to the point where the much desired development may not be visible at the local government levels. And that brings us to what happened recently in the pronouncement of the Supreme Court. That should be on the 11th of July, 2024, that the local government authorities now have autonomy. Because if you look at Section 162, subsection 6 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, there's this provision for joint account between state and local government, which gives some governors enormous power to really drive the process, even at the local government level. So now that the autonomy has been granted through the court, and a 3-month window was given for them to conduct democratic elections, to put democratic leadership as against caretakers at local government level. Otherwise, the allocation that should come directly from the federation account to the local government will not be released. So some states have complied, and what has been observed is that it's been winners take it all.
But I mean, in helping us with that background, you've highlighted some factors. The challenges, do you think they are institutional? Because some have said that these challenges, sometimes some call it organizational, some say maybe perhaps because of funding, some say technical capacity. But for you, is it a combination of all of these factors?
You see, I subsume it into the macro environment. Okay. We are yet to establish the culture of governance in Nigeria. So politics takes the lead. I mean, whether you have a joint account between the state and the local government, what is the purpose of releasing funding? To develop the community. You see, for instance, do you know that waste management is the responsibility of the local government?
Yes.
But in some states, states take it over. For what reason? And that joint account became a tool of deciding who goes in there. In fact, after the decision of the Supreme Court, I have read that some chairmen are even saying, some governors are asking them to take oath of secrecy. In fact, I said it on a TV show that you may be shocked that some local government chairmen will collect this money directly from the federation account and take the money to the governor, because it is still a political tool. And I can explain that. There is what you call conditioning in industrial psychology. Okay. And it has to do with change management. This is a system that has gone on and is reflecting in the results of the recent local government election. So the governors have become powerful. So for you to even emerge as chairman, you must have the approval of the governor. So I understand some states are even trying to make laws now to see how that taking away the big chunk of the local government allocation.
So, Mr. Ologun, I asked if the challenges are institutional because some say even in the 1970s, the reform process came with substantial autonomy for local government, but the missing link was a political will.
I have explained that already. We play politics over governance. If in Nigeria, for instance, we have the governance spirit that is resident in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, we'll not be talking about local government communities not being developed. Okay. In the US, you talk about county. So you feel the presence of government up to the county level. And what is the essence of having a government in place? Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999, as amended, says clearly that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government, whether at the national level, state level, or local government level. So if we have created that culture of governance, we are yet to create it. So it's an institutional, a systemic failure. I've said it. Whether the money comes through the state to the local government or directly, what purpose is it for? You see, I did a research as we speak. I mean, within the context of this month, our total indebtedness to the World Bank may be about $16.5 billion. So what have we done with it? The total indebtedness of Nigeria today is around 121 trillion naira. It was 12.12 trillion naira in March 2015. So has it translated into infrastructural development? Look at what UAE did. UAE engaged the oil money and the financing that came from some well-meaning supporters to create magnetic infrastructure that attracted foreign direct investment into the community. And you can see the autopilot of wealth going on in that region. You see, so whether at the national level or state level or local government level, what culture of governance do we have in Nigeria? Governance is different from government. Government is that driving structure. Governance is the engagement of resources. And if you look at, if you start reading from section 15 to section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that the resources of the country should be harnessed in a way that wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a few, that the citizens enjoy maximum happiness. In fact, in section 16, subsection 2D, it specifies clearly that there should be affordable housing, affordable food, reasonable living minimum wage, care for the old, pensions, the disabled, for all citizens. So it's a culture of, so are we into good governance or are we just into politics? I mean, that's a big question.
That's a big question. But our focus tonight is on local governments, and I want you to take us through the impact of that Supreme Court judgment. What is the aim of that judgment? What is it supposed to achieve going forward?
What it's out to achieve is that governors will no longer play the role of emperor. Okay. Where some governors can serve the first time without even conducting election of officers to go and man the local government areas and just appoint caretakers. And yet, resources are released for development at the local government level that may not get to the beneficiaries. That is one. And to say, release this money now directly to the local government areas. And I have argued that if we have corruption at the state level, if under the joint account system, what about if that element of corruption has been established at the local government level? So does it matter whether the local government gets the funding directly? Where is the accountability, which is one of the strong elements of good governance? You see, so those are issues. Have we come to a point where you can, go ahead and ask that, hey, you need to tar my road, you need to do the drainage, you need to do this and that? I've said it. In the US, you have counties, and what happens is that even the local communities will rise up to take over some projects and sponsor the projects just to ensure that you have a loving community. So what has happened now is that the Supreme Court has said you cannot dissolve the local government's leadership. You cannot appoint caretakers. Have constitutionally and statutory, voting of leaders into this area. They let them get their funding directly. But having said that, look at what happened in Rivers State, for instance. If you look at Benue, the ruling party cleared all the local government seats. You talk about some other states also, Kaduna, But in Rivers State, you still saw the influence of the governor come into play. PDP said, we will not be part of the local government election. APC said, we will not be part of the local government election. And the governor has not resigned from PDP. So what did he do? He migrated his candidate to APP, a proxy party, and won 22 seats in local government areas out of 23. And that is what I mean by politics. So you can see the seed that Wike sowed, that he's now a hybrid politician operating between APC and PDP. Right. So these are issues. And the concerns of statesmen, of citizens who want development, is that are these benefiting the citizens? Rivers State, as an isolated case, is the second richest state in the whole federation.
So do you think we need to pick these issues from how these local government officials get into power, talking about SIEC, to reform or to abolish?
What we have right now, the argument came up that, okay, INEC should conduct the elections, but constitutionally, INEC cannot. So what we have right now is that the State Independent Electoral Commission will conduct the elections. And that brings us to another question. What about the influence of the governor, who may be expected to engage his influence to influence the direction? And that's why you have this syndrome of the winner takes it all. And that is the fear some are having when you begin to debate about state policing, that won't some governors hijack the policing system and use it to their advantage. So we still have a long way to go. But having said that, we need to wake up. Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says clearly that the National Assembly shall make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in Nigeria, and by extension, the houses of assembly at the state level. So if the intention is to sanitize the environment, to bring development to the nation, to bring prosperity to the people, you can look at these laws. And if you feel that the best thing that can happen is for INEC to conduct all the tiers of election, you can amend the Constitution. Right now, a review is going on of some of the provisions of the Constitution.
Isn't that like an overburden on INEC?
Overburden?
Too much pressure on INEC.
How can it be too much pressure? INEC has budgetary allocations. INEC doesn't conduct election on a daily basis. It's seasonal. You see, it's for a purpose.
So it's something we can do with.
Exactly. It can work if we want it to work. So, but the interest must be in the direction of national development. There are levels of interest in democracy and politics. You have the state interest, you have the party interest, you have the personal interest. And all these come to play. And what should dominate should be the state interest. And when we come to that point, we begin to look at the machineries and the engagements as we progress as a people and restructure it in a way that will benefit us. Look at the Electoral Act that was amended. There was a provision that many people argued over, that, okay, if you're a political appointee and you want to participate actively, and you are interested at the primary level in your parties, you resign. So that saw the likes of Amechi resigning from their portfolios and things like that. So there is no law that we have that cannot be amended. But in whose interest? And I have said this, if you are benefiting from a law that is not beneficial to the society today, you may end up being the victim tomorrow. So why don't you allow conscience when you have the opportunity to ensure that we create a society that benefits majority of the citizens, and not just a few.
You know, you've talked about accountability a few minutes to go, but you've talked about accountability and how we must ensure proper accountability at the grassroots level. How do we ensure that local government officials do not become mini-gods?
It's by calling them to order. But
Who
from
calls them to
experience,
order?
Yeah, but from experience, you challenge some of them and they tell you, I'm not the one who
Local
brought them to
government
office.
officials?
You see? And again, there is what you call reinforcement theory in industrial psychology. We have built a culture around leadership in Nigeria. There are three aspects of leadership. We have the locational aspect of leadership. For example, my president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces is domiciled in Aso Villa. You have the status aspect of leadership, which is okay, is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And you have the responsibility aspect of leadership. Why is he the president? Why is he the commander-in-chief? And that question is answered by Section 14, subsection 2 of our Constitution that I quoted earlier, the security and the welfare of the citizens. And the best thing that can happen is to allow that responsibility aspect of leadership to be the arrowhead. Otherwise, the issue of status. So you need to see some local government leaders operate. You would think they are presidents in some other countries. So we need to go back to that culture of service to the people. I mean, some of us have watched the parliament in the UK. You saw how Boris Johnson was grilled like a primary school boy, you know, and he had to step aside. In fact, when the lady came in there, nobody asked her to step aside. She looked at the responsibilities and realized that, hey, she couldn't cope. And she stepped aside. And look at Sunak that took over. There was an election in the UK on the 4th of July, 2024. Many people did not even hear about it. And it was an election that removed the incumbent because it's about service. So when we come to the point of leading to serve, in Nigeria, we begin to correct some of these issues. But right now, it's about power.
I think that's the best way to leave this conversation. It's not a conversation that can exhaust in one night. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Chidi Ologun, lawyer and political affairs analyst. Thank you so much for coming on Politics Tonight.
God bless Nigeria.
God bless. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. That's all we have for you on Politics Tonight. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.
The Inspector General of Police has met with senior officers to review the state of security.
We are continuing our coverage of the arrest of Godwin Emefiele.
The Senate has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to properly brief the Senate regarding the state of the economy.
What I will never take.
Let's now bring you more development from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where an explosion has taken place. Tell us about this incident.
TVC News, first with breaking news. Events for the month of October 2024. 1st of October is Nigeria's 64th Independence Day. On the 5th of October is the World Teachers Day. On the 6th of October is the World Cerebral Palsy Day. On the 10th of October, the world celebrates Mental Health Day and the World Sight Day. On the 11th of October is the International Day of the Girl Child. On the 15th of October is the Global Hand Washing Day. On the 16th of October is the World Food Day. On the 17th of October is the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. On the 24th of October to the 31st of October is the Global Media and Information Literacy Week. Stay tuned to TVC News for this reports and analysis.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
When shippers groan under the weight of ceaseless charges that tend to throw them off balance in the sector, Nigerian Shippers Council promptly comes to their rescue.
We will all of us work together as a team to move our country and indeed Shippers Council forward.
To get justice done without the money for any charges.
A tidbit, the world and the first to break the 24,000 TEU mark.
Allah Hill and Dry port is born again. Finally, the eagle has landed.
The essence of a dry port is to decongest the port and make the shipping services nearer to shippers.
Join us for a smooth sail on your favorite maritime program, The Shipper, brought to you by Nigerian Shippers Council, Nigeria's port economic regulator.
The task of the leaders is to get their people from where they are to where they've not been. How do we hold our leaders accountable in the business of lawmaking and representation?
The mandate that you have given to us is not abuse in any way.
The primary purpose of government is to ensure the welfare and security of the Nigerian people.
The constituency project had noble intentions and they still remain the most veritable tool.
Do they really know their representatives at the states and national assemblies?
Our people, they don't have water, they are suffering. They only drink water from where rain fall.
For the current one, the 10th assembly, I don't really know who is in charge.
From the mountaintops to the deepest valleys, we're ready to go an extra mile just to show Nigerian your constituency project. Know your representative with Maria, bridging the visible gap.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Knowledge around the world today that nations and operators of global maritime businesses are upgrading equipment and infrastructure at their disposal to provide quality service. As a member of the global maritime community, Nigeria is poised to upgrade its infrastructure at the seaports for enhanced operations and efficiency. We will tell you what the government is doing in that regard. We have details of the meeting between officers of the Association of Maritime Truck Owners and the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Shippers Council, Barrister Payo Sakuta, in Lagos. Details after this break.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Welcome back to The Shipper, the program that keeps you informed on all things maritime, brought to you by the Nigerian Shippers Council, the nation's port economic regulator. My name is Abike Ido. There are strong indications from the government that it is addressing various obstacles affecting smooth operations at ports across the country with the goal of making Nigeria the maritime hub of Africa. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, gave this indication at this year's Dock Workers' Day organized by the Shipping Correspondents Association of Nigeria in Lagos. Here are details of that event put together by Adeshina Abiodun. Developing a viable non-oil sector is part of the present administration's efforts to facilitate the nation's economic prosperity. The government has identified the maritime industry as one with immense investment opportunities to create wealth and employment for the nation. This is why the government has taken measures to invest in the sector to attract investment in the maritime industry. Despite these efforts, the maritime industry has been affected by poor and inadequate infrastructure, among other challenges. As part of a deliberate plan to tackle these problems, the government, working with private investors and relevant stakeholders, is repositioning the sector by upgrading facilities and expanding existing infrastructure at the ports. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, who spoke through a representative at Dock Workers' Day, told the gathering that the government's resolve to tackle impediments to smooth operations at the ports is yielding positive results, as evidenced by the growing private sector participation. According to the minister, one of the milestones achieved by his ministry was the recent signing of a Memorandum of Understanding on minimum standard for wages of maritime workers.
The ministry, in conjunction with the Nigerian Ports Authority, in a quest to reposition the nation's ports, has commenced processes for the modernization of our ports, which are to address dilapidating state of the ports infrastructures to enhance efficiency and ensure competitiveness in the global maritime space.
While acknowledging the importance of dock workers in the sector, former Managing Director of Nigerian Shippers Council, Chief Adebayo Sarumi, provided insight into their activities.
The best way to get anybody to change their ways is to expose them to how other people do it in more civilized environment. If there were a group of people in the port and shipping sector that should always be celebrated, I knew from that particular time that it is the dock workers. But then, as a young officer, I didn't know the nuances. I didn't know what was happening. These were people without whom no ship would discharge. And these were people who had to take their own destiny in their own hands by forcing themselves to be recognized because the system didn't recognize them.
For the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Shippers Council, Barrister Payo Sakuta, prioritizing the welfare of dock workers is crucial to ensuring smooth operations at the ports.
Today, we recognize the invaluable contributions of dock workers to the maritime industry and the blue economy. Your dedication to the cause of the